Happy New Year's, Wine-Soaked! Welcome back to our journey through Italy. So today I've decided to take you to the Veneto, which is a really exciting wine region to start the new year off with. One, because it's where Prosecco is from, and Prosecco is the most notable sparkling wine from Italy, followed in short order by Moscato. But as I am a dry wine lover, Prosecco is king to me. There's a lot of different wines that come from the Veneto. In fact, I'm usually shocked that it's all one region, because there are very different wine styles. I tried to pick three that really highlighted the region, and also were wines that you could easily find. But that doesn't mean that's all that's out there. In fact, I did write a huge, epic article on everything you want to know about the Veneto. So if you do want to know anything past this show, or if you're studying for a test, please check that out. And as always, feel free to ask me any questions online. But that being said, let's get into tasting. I picked these wines, and I was really excited about them. I couldn't wait to film this New Year's show, and yet this, my friends, has been a comedy of errors. We're starting in the region of Prosecco, the Val d'Abone, which is the main DOC for Prosecco. This is a superiore. Basically what that means is back in the 60s and 70s, most of the business people behind the wine industry in the Veneto were like, hey, let's not worry so much about this quality thing. Let's make as much wine as humanly possible and as much money as humanly possible. So they took all of these delineated regions, which were super famous and super focused on quality, and they expanded them beyond where the soil was the same, the quality was the same. They just really started trying to pump out some wine. Which, you know, that has its upside financially and its downside as far as reputation goes. But if you see superiore, that means in Prosecco that it is grown in the original zone. So it has the soil that winemakers for hundreds of years have thought was the perfect soil to grow this Prosecco grape in. Now Prosecco isn't always 100% Prosecco. It can also be blended with a tiny bit of Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio to kind of kick up the acid or just give a little bit more notes. You know, it's up to the winemaker's discretion. I picked this particular winery because it is very near and dear to my heart. This is Nino Franco, Rustica Prosecco, and this was the first Prosecco I ever drank. It really kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world of wine that I didn't know was out there. I discovered it in 2006 when I was working at a recreational cooking school in Chicago. And so I was very excited to share this wine with you today. I did buy it from a local store here in Harlingen, Texas. I was very impressed that they had this particular wine until today when I opened it to write my tasting note for you guys. Now, I know you can't really see the label, but there's not a vintage on here because technically it is a non-vintage wine. However, Prosecco is a very oxidative grape. It's meant to be drunk really quickly, really freshly, maybe 1 to 2 years max after it's bottled. And when I opened the cork today, this particular cork said 2006. So although I discovered this wine in 2006, and that should make me very nostalgic, I shrieked in fear. I was like, oh dear Lord, please make this not be a ruined wine. Nevertheless, I championed on for you. But my deductive skills were correct. So this wine is 100% faulted. It is taking one of the prettiest little Proseccos I know and destroying it. This should not be sitting on a shelf anywhere anymore. If you ever open a Prosecco and notice it's that old, please return it to your store as humanly possible. That being stated, I will walk you through what a faulted Prosecco shows so that you know, if you're ever in doubt, that it is not what it should be. So right away I'm looking at this wine in my glass and I can tell that there is something wrong. Normally when you look at a Prosecco, it is almost clear, it has this kind of beautiful, silvery, frothy, fresh looking, it just looks like mist. And it's supposed to taste like that too. This, however, is gold. Like completely like a Chardonnay that has been aged for 10 years in oak gold. So right away I can tell that the Prosecco grape has oxidize. Then I'm looking and there's almost no bubbles. When I opened it earlier today, there was a little bit to start, but nothing that's lasted. Granite Prosecco doesn't hold its bubbles as long as a traditional method sparkling wine does, because it's made in a completely different method. It's a tank method, which I go into in much more detail in my article. But normally you can tell the difference in the glass because tank method sparkling wines have these big kind of erratic bubbles, and traditional method wines have the really tight, pretty champagne-like curls to it. But this has nothing. Nada, nada, nada. And the smell is just the saddest thing I've ever smelled. Normally, a Prosecco you'd almost want to wear as perfume. It's not as aromatic as a Moscato, but it's kind of tripping the line fantastic. Normally you get a lot of white flowers, you get a lot of white peach. That's why it's the base of a traditional Bellini. Normally that's cold Prosecco and fresh squeezed white peach. I'm not getting any of that here. I'm getting a lot of apple cider vinegar. I'm getting a lot of just rancio notes, maybe like a really low quality cognac, but definitely not Prosecco. So what a bummer, and I feel really, really bad for whoever bought the rest of this case on New Year's when I purchased my bottle. Normally I can handle a little bit of a developed flavor in my wine. I like aged champagnes. I like things with a little bit more oxidation than most people do. But by no means am I going to be able to drink this wine tonight as I planned. It really kind of tastes like somebody poured apple cider vinegar in some baking soda. Oh, that's just a shame. Even more so, I'm sad for Nino Franco. It is a wine house that I very much believe in. So if you see it, definitely try them out. Great producers. They've been making wine in this exact location since 1919. It's stayed in the Franco family forever. They're just really high quality. So don't blame the winemakers, blame this shop owner, because they did not handle their product with respect. And blame the distributor for not pulling them off the shelf. Alright, so let's continue on our journey. We're going to Soave now. Soave is a traditional white wine from the Veneto. It's usually a blend of Garganega in the front and Trebbiano as a supporting character. Now you can tell a lot by this region, by this bottle shape. For those of you who drink a lot of Riesling, you might recognize this bottle. It's a traditional Alsatian flute, also used in Germany all the time for Riesling. That just really speaks to how German this area is. Yes, we are in Italy, and we are further south than other regions that we've already talked about. But still, more people speak German here than Italian. And there's a lot of crossover in food and culture and basic aesthetics, as you can tell in this bottle. Now this is exciting. Soave, just like every other wine in this region, because of the big kind of greed rush of the 60s and 70s, you can either get really amazing, really complex Soaves, or you can get stuff that kind of tastes like lemon water, and it's kind of hard to navigate. So I always say, you know, find some producers you like, stick with them, read the research, talk to your local wine shop maven or sommelier. I have always been a big believer in this particular producer. It's Peripon, and they've been making this wine in this family since 1890. So if you're having an Italian steampunk party, this might be an excellent choice. This is a Soave Classico, which means it is grown in the classic region of Soave before they expanded the territories. It's estate grown and bottled, and it's a 2010. Now, after our little Prosecco debacle, I was a little nervous to try this at 2010. That granite is a lot younger than 2006. However, both Garganega and Trebbiano are in that kind of medium-bodied oxidative grape range. So there's something you do want to drink fresher rather than aged. There's something that this particular wine is actually fermented in cement casks that are lined with glass to preserve the freshness. So it's not something you want sitting around. It will age quickly. Alright. I'm looking at it. We've got a pale straw core to a watery rim, so much more reassuring on the color. I see no gas or sediment, which is a good sign. It is not completely brilliant. It's a little bit day bright, so it makes me think that it is oxidizing a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as the Prosecco was. We got a little bit more viscosity here. This is a 12% alcohol wine versus the Prosecco, which was at 11%. So this is going to be a little drier. That is a very Alsatian nose. I have a lot of like almost herb butter. I have a lot of thyme in here, some Napa cabbage, some like golden apple and dried orange peel, a little bit of Meyer lemon on the back end. So this smells already, I feel like it's going to be refreshing, but a little more full-bodied than, say, like a Pinot Grigio. I'm also getting a slightly chalky note here. I know it's grown in volcanic soil, so that could definitely be lending itself here. Ah, this is the Veneto redemption song for whites today. So this is definitely dry, medium plus acid. It's got this really complex finish. It's both kind of zippy and silky. It kind of tastes like garlic butter melting in your mouth. It makes me crave this cheese that I used to work with from Vermont Creamery called Bijou, which is this little like button-sized triple cream goat cheese. I feel like the two of these together could just melt in your mouth for days. So I would definitely check this guy out. It's definitely at an everyday price point. I couldn't find it down here in Texas, which is not surprising, but you can find it on most online wine stores and probably most bigger wine stores if you have the luxury. Alright, so now let's move to Valpolicella Superiore. This is probably the most famous red from the area, but not the most prestigious. Valpolicella you can get in a wide range of quality, from this kind of jammy, sour glut wine, all the way to wine that can definitely palate dance battle with its fancy cousin Amarone. Sadly, I could not afford an Amarone for the show today, but you can read the entire winemaking process and history in the article that's coming out later this week. But for now, let's talk about Valpolicella. Valpolicella is always a blend. Normally it is leading in Corvina with Rondinella and a couple other grapes as supporting characters. This particular one is 85% Corvina, 10% Rondinella, and then as a kind of fun twist, 10% Sangiovese, which you don't see a lot in the Veneto. This particular winery is a little bit younger than the other two. They've been making wine, it's a husband and wife that have been making wine since 1960, and they're kind of trying to bring quality back to the Veneto, especially in the name of Valpolicella. This is the Zanato family. They can obviously produce as much as they want, but they're trying to reduce their yields. They're trying to do kind of more organic biodynamic practices, experiment with kind of more old school traditional Italian winemaking techniques, but with higher sanitation. So really exciting winery to follow. Although funny story with this particular bottle. I opened it a night ago so that me and my husband could taste test it together to write the tasting note, because normally we love the same Italian wines. Granted, he's a little bit more fruit forward and I'm a little bit more earthy, but Italy usually meets in the middle for us. However, when I opened this wine, it was Brettanomyces-y as all get out. If you don't know what Brettanomyces means, if you've ever smelled a wine that's a little poopy, that's what I'm talking about. And my husband could come up with 1,000,001 poopy references, so. But I had faith. I had faith that it would blow off and live another day to sing its beautiful song, and I was correct. So this is a 2009. It was aged for 12 months in Slovenian oak, which is going to give it this kind of rustic quality that you don't often see in wines anymore, because usually people use either French or American oak. So it's kind of like vanilla and vanilla-ier. But Slovenian oak, completely different animal. Again, it's superiore, which means it's grown in the traditional region of Veneto, or Valpolicella, which is in Veneto. And we're going to check out the color here. So this is a really saturated ruby going out to a salmon rim. So that means that there's going to be fruit here, but it's also seen some age and some oxygen. That's going to be probably pretty complex. It's a little dull, so it has aged a bit. And the viscosity is definitely higher here than in our two whites. Let's check out the alcohol here. Yep, 13.5. So this is definitely going to make the day go a little smoother. There is no poop here, my friends. This Valpolicella smells absolutely delightful right now. This definitely is a wine drinker's wine. So if you know somebody that likes fruity wine, do not force this on them. However, if you like things with a little bit more of a complex, earthy layering to it, I highly recommend this wine. Just right off the bat, I'm getting dried rose petals, I'm getting dried raspberry, kind of muddy saddle leather, crunchy fall leaves. It's dry, it's delicious. Oh man, I could drink this all night long. There's this sour cherry note, medium tannin, high acid, I think higher than usual due to the Sangiovese. And it's making me crave aged Gouda, so I see nothing wrong with this wine. I think it's an excellent, excellent example of what Valpolicella can do without having to pay, you know, an Amarone price for a good quality Coravina. So I hope this is kind of excited you into the world of the Veneto, and also taught you a lesson in looking for quality in your shop owners. I look forward to exploring the rest of Italy this 2013 with you, and salut! Ugh.